Hey guys, today is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a screen share because I want to show you a couple of files that I think going to be helpful to you in your copywriting. So I spoke with the client and they allowed me to share pretty much everything with you. So thanks to them. They're awesome. I really enjoyed working with them, and this is just something that I also appreciate that they allowed me to put out there. So in this video, I'm gonna go over what files I wanna show you, just maybe talk a little bit about each and some of the main takeaways. And then I'm gonna quickly wrap it up because this is the last video of the series, as I mentioned in the last video. And then I'm gonna talk about what I'm off to do next, and I think that would be the video. So yeah, let's get right into it. So there are five files I want to show you. This is the actual letter that I wrote. Cabot Wells is the client, and so I have like a couple of versions. So this version, I'm gonna use this one in this video because it's just the formatting is so nice, but it's not full letter. They kind of trimmed it a little bit because it had to fit like a certain length for this purpose. So that's why I'm also gonna give you this file, which is the full letter, but the formatting is just kind of not as pretty, but it's good for information. So it's the same file. Now, I'm also going to give you a work file. I edited some of the comments because the client, but most of it is just here. I think it's going to be very helpful to you guys to see like how some numbers are being calculated, how much research is being done, and images, and like how communication with the client works in terms of the comments. So super helpful. Then I'm going to show you how I came up with the big idea for this promotion. I think we discussed it in some of the videos in quite details, but here I'm just going to give you like actual notes from how I did it. And then number 4 is the Excel file. This is because I mean in financial copywriting, especially, numbers are like is the meat and potatoes. So I'm gonna show you what numbers they gave me and how I calculated some of the stuff that I've used in the promotion. And lastly, I'm gonna give you a research file that I've done. This is not for all weather promo because I cannot disclose the stock I done for that promo, but this is from, if you remember, my Mona Lisa mock-up letter. So here I just sort of included where I done my research, how I done my research, so that you could see how much is required to note in order to promote something. And yeah, this is just empty. So yeah, let's get into it now. So this is the letter, and honestly, I like it. It looks good. I'm proud of what how it came out. In terms of results, I think it's selling already. Now, I asked them like if they wanna. I don't think it's like exceptional sales or anything like that, but it is selling. And I asked them if they wanna kind of come together and brainstorm about how we could make it even better. But my understanding is that the client is very happy with the letter and they don't want to redo it. And they just mentioned that right now marijuana market is still struggling. It is definitely not booming at like right now at this like moment. So they think it's just the market, and they didn't even do like an active cold traffic promotion for this letter yet. It's just mainly kind of on their page sitting there, but already selling internally. So I think they're happy with the letter, and I didn't get a third opinion on this letter like I was planning to if the client wasn't happy, but because the client was happy I never done it. But from what I can tell, it's pretty decent. But but yeah, don't take my word for it. Maybe somebody more experienced could kind of take this apart. But I didn't get to that point with this letter. So anywho, as you can see there, this is my headline and this is my lead. I don't want to go into a lot of details here. You just read it. It's pretty straightforward. I think the format is very standard. But I just want to point out two things in this letter. As I've mentioned like many times, 80% of your success is going to be here, on your first 5 pages, like your headline, and like you gotta have a big number. You gotta intrigue people with like something, your unique mechanism, right? Just like all weather, and then cannabis trader, MJ barometer, and then you're gonna hook them in with your lead, which is like 5-7 pages. But then you get into what people usually call the body. And what I see sometimes people do is they just kind of throw things that they've seen in other promotions because they kind of feel like it has to be there. For example, if we promote a newsletter that talks about marijuana stocks, a lot of people will think they have to talk about marijuana industry, and they do. But because they approach it from the perspective of, I just have to talk about it, they just kind of slam it in the middle of the letter with something like, so guys, I made this much money, but before I tell you how I do it, let's talk about marijuana industry. That's literally what they do. And I think it's just really breaks the flow of the letter, because you don't really think from the perspective of a reader, you just think about from the perspective of a copywriter, that you have to cover this basis. So what, just to give you an example, and what's funny is information that they're going to be covered is going to be the same. And this is where in the last video, right? Remember we've talked about this amazing formula that I absolutely love. It's objection, then claim, then proof and benefit. Proof, benefit. Like, you can structure entire letter with this formula. It's just like from one objection to another. Like, this is objection, number one, and then you go into like number 2 and number 3, and that's how you're gonna construct your letter. It's just you move from objection to objection. So marijuana like industry, right? Yes, of course you have to discuss that data, like how big it is, how much it's growing, what's going on in there, but it's all about how you frame it. If a lot of people don't think about objections, just think about like, okay, I just gotta give them like proof and data, these things, maybe even these things, but they don't think about this one, which is the most important part, because this is what reader is thinking about, and you want to engage the reader. So as an example, I'm coming out, so this was my lead, and this is where I introduced the portfolio manager, right? Credibility, and this is where the letter kind of blends from your lead into your body. And for me, I also started with the general marijuana industry analysis, so the data is the same as any other letter would use, but the way you kind of present the whole thing, that's where your job as a copywriter, I think, matters the most. So what I said is this, seeing all these triple digit returns, because I sort of tout a lot of like stocks, like this stock went up this much, and here we made this much, like 200%, 300%. And then I'm kind of trying to bring it down now. So seeing all these triple digit returns might make you feel like the green rush has passed by you. So this is a legitimate concern that some of the readers might have. Every time like people see somebody's making a lot of money, one of the first reactions is that, or maybe it's too late. So I put it here, and even if people didn't think about it, now they certainly do, because it is a legitimate concern. So, and I just address it heads on. It's understandable reaction, but let's look at the data first. And then I go into the, so this is, I kind of do a little bit of a proof right here, but my real claim is this. But this pales in compared to what's coming next, because the cannabis industry is actually in its early infancy. So, and then I just go how big the market is, how much it already grew, how much it's projected to grow, and why it's projected to grow this much, how much, yada yada, all this data, right? Basically the proof. And then the benefit is kind of tied up at the end, but I think that's an easy part. The hardest part is to just be aware how you present the information. Don't just smack it in there because you see, like, you kind of feel like you have to talk about how big the marijuana market is. Think about how you can frame it from a perspective of the reader, what they care about. So in this case, I picked, and there's many ways I think to frame it. There's no right answer as long as you kind of do it. But for me, it was like, my first reaction was that, okay, I see like 500% growth and stuff like that. What if it's too late? And I just threw it out there, and then I frame all my data from that perspective. So, and then another thing is, do I want to do this one? Give me 1 second, guys. Let's see, images, yada yada. No, actually, yeah, that's all I'm gonna talk about in terms of the body. But if you read, keep reading this, because this is all still body. This is all body. You will see that I go from objection to solution, from objection to solution. Like, where was this one? Oh, this one. Like, but if the industry is doing so well, how come so many people end up with such low returns or even lose money? And then this is where I address the volatility, because I know I cannot not talk about volatility when I talk about cannabis market, because it's so young and so volatile. So, and then I frame my data, what do you call it, proof and benefit from this lens of like why if the marijuana industry is growing, like people, there's more and more production, there's more and more retailers coming up, why investors lose money. So it's a legitimate concern, and I take it as an objection from a potential buyer, and I frame my data and my benefits from this perspective. So I think this is super helpful for me, because I remember when I started doing this, this was kind of came naturally to me. But then once I've done with my headline and the lead, I'm like, what am I going to talk about here? And that's where when I read the Kyle Milligan's book, and that's where he talked about this thingy here, and it was super helpful to me, and it made the whole process very structured and easy to complete. Now, another thing that a lot of people asking are images. And I think it depends on the publisher. In my case, the publisher did the images, but you have to come up, as a copywriter, you have to come up with where images go and what those images should look like. And you will see a lot of here. I kind of made this so that it's easy to see. Image requests. Some of the images, like, it's just straight up screenshots I've done from the internet, but some of them I have to be more like artistic. And they told me they will make it for me. If they don't do images, you can just go hire somebody on like Upwork, maybe, or like, there's a lot of these websites, and maybe expense it. Tell them, hey, I will make the images, but then you guys will pay for it. I'm pretty sure they will agree to it. And then you can just hire a designer and and do it yourself. But in my case, they had a designer somewhere else, so I just had to write it. But let's see. So my headline image, right? I literally just wrote here, image request. For the headline image, we could do a large cannabis leaf split into 4 parts, with each part showing a different weather: sunny, rain, snow, and cloudy. And then I found this random picture from the internet just to give them an idea of what I'm talking about. It just makes the whole thing very easy. And then if we look at what they've done, this is what they've done. And honestly, I love it. All their images, I was actually, maybe I had like low expectations for some reason, I don't know. But it was very neat for me when I write something like this instruction and then people go and make it in the real world. It just kind of, I don't know, I just think it's super cool. And one thing, like, I would make this one more rain. I don't know, maybe there is rain here. I cannot see the rain, but I think it would just be cooler artistically. But otherwise, I'm really happy with this one. I'll show you a couple of more, because like all weather cannabis is my main unique mechanism, but I also had like 2 smaller unique mechanisms, which is like cannabis radar and MJ barometer. This is something that we've came up with for this promo. And let me see. So for example, when I wrote about it, we didn't have a picture, right? An image for it. So I just kind of pulled a random picture on the internet that I kind of felt like very close to what I think our picture should look like, and then I provided some comments here, like, for the visuals, I was thinking to have a military radar screen like this one with small cannabis leaves instead of planes. And then I give like a bunch of detailed recommendations, like they could change these numbers to like large cap stock, small cap stock kind of stuff, just to match the theme better. So this is what they come up with, and I love it. This is like exactly what I wanted. They didn't do the details, but it's up to them at the end of the day, and I don't think it really changes much, but super happy with this one. And the last one was let's see, this one. So barometer, maybe we should make it electronic instead of mechanical to be consistent with the radar, but could stay mechanical as well. And then I kind of tell them, instead of like stormy rain, change fair, wear dry, we could just put like buy, initiate, trim, and sell, kind of like stock actions, right? And they kind of cut it out from this promo because it has to be shorter. But if you go to this one, you will find it here somewhere. There you go. So sell, trim, change, hold, buy. I like it. I think it gets the message across. It's memorable. So no complaints here. Very happy. So yeah, check out the letter. You can check out all the comments, all the where the numbers coming from, and the research and stuff like that. But we're gonna move on from here for now to the big idea examples. Okay, so I don't remember which video was that, but I remember I had a whole video dedicated to the big idea, and this is essentially some notes from what I've talked about in that video. And I just want to talk about the process here, how I did it. So this one really comes from talking to the client on the phone and reading their newsletter to understanding what the product is. This is where you kind of learn about the product. And for example, in this case, as I just made some notes, it's like the strategy is to, number one, identify future industry leaders, and two, trade the sector cycle. That's kind of their trading strategy. And then they make what's special about them. It's like they have very deep diversification. It's just like how many stocks they buy, what kind of company sizes, what kind of business models within each industry, even what prices they enter. They follow like hundreds of stocks at any time. Manager is super experienced, like decades upon decades of experience, and they have like amazing performance. Like this is how much money they return they made. This is how much index made for the period. So it's like 4.25 times more than the index. And then I go into, you remember, like I start with the big picture idea, and the first element of a big picture idea is emotionally appealing primary purpose. If you remember that formula, right, from a 300K guy. And this is very draft, but essentially I know I want to make 4.25 my number, which is funny because it changes completely to something 120%, right? I kind of changed it, but a lot of it is because this was done like three or four months like before we published it, so a lot of things changed, but doesn't matter. I think just focus on the process here, and I just kind of start throwing like some small ideas like, okay, a little group of investors with proprietary strategy. And this is my initial story, which I kind of talked about in the last video. I had like a whole fictional story about a guy, which didn't go anywhere. So this all got scratched up. And then I go to unique angles. And I had like a bunch here. Like I had like a Darwin method and like cannabis nomads, Michelin star, right? This is just like all weather, turbo boost ideas. And then I kind of wrote out three of them. The all weather, and you will notice all this changed. Like the only thing that's stayed is kind of this part. Everything else out of this changed completely. So the Darwin method and then the alpha mega method. So I sent them three, and then but I had like some backups too, like if they didn't like any, but they liked all weather, and so we kind of went with that. So I hope this will kind of help you to see how there's like no right way to do it. It's just how I did. Now the next part is for financial letters. There's always a lot of numbers. That's like the most important part probably, as far as the content of the letter goes. And I blurred out the name of the stocks, but this is essentially what they sent me. They sent me like this table here, and this is what I've done. There's another sheet, but I couldn't share that one. But I think this is the most important one as far as the like copywriting goes. And it's very simple. I literally just came up with these things that like I was just thinking, okay, how can I talk about this in a accessible way so people could understand whether this is good or this is bad. And I just kind of came up with these elements that I want to see, and this is like maximum gain, and it's just literally like what's the maximum number in this column, average gain, and then maximum loss, how many total bets they've done, how many losers, like basically like I highlighted every negative number in the table, and it's like losers, and then the balance is winners, how much on average losers lost and how much on average winners gained, and how much bets made more than 100%. So this is basically what I want to know about this portfolio. And then I look at these numbers and I'm like, this is very easy to advertise. That's why actually one thing is, yeah, if you pick something that's very hard to market, maybe, you know, that's a completely different story. One thing about this whole promo, it was very easy to market. It was a good product, and I liked it. And this is a product I was actually thinking to buy myself, if I were to like invest in cannabis stock actively myself. But so this is all to say that this was just a good product, so it was easy to advertise it. And I will show you how I used this in the letter itself. So let's see. This talks blah 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 blah. Yeah, this one. So let's see. So yeah, and this was like right off the bat. I've gone through the industry, and then I kind of talking. This is where I'm slowly getting into what the portfolio, what the product is all about. Like, let's analyze the portfolio together so we can see exactly how it has performed. Since the launch, we've had 59 total exits. 15 of those were losers and 44 made us money. Let's stop right here for a second. Before I go into further details, this data alone means that over the last 29 months in the marijuana market, 75% of the stocks we bought and sold had been winners. Now, let's also consider this. Not only did 75% of my recommendations make money, but those winning stocks were also significantly bigger than our losses. For example, our average negative return from those 15 losing bets was 24.7%, right? So 24.7%, 15 losing, 75% win rate, everything, all numbers from here. Compared to the average 191.6% gain among the winning 44 bets, our average winner is almost 8 times bigger than our average loser, and we've had a lot more winners. So in this short thingy, right, so that's like what? That's like one paragraph probably in a normal format. I kind of summarized everything I wanted to really talk about. And then I kind of go, the rest of the letter is like how these guys did it. But this is really the sales right here. So yeah, so that's like one way to do it. I also kind of highlighted how many stocks did more than 100%, and I used it as a gimmick somewhere in the letter too. Like this many stocks did more than like 100%. And I think there's many more ways you could do it, but this is just what I've done in this specific example. Now, this one, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. This is essentially, I just think it's useful for you guys to see how much it takes, how much information you should know, at least for me, in order to market something. And I provide all the kind of links and information and facts, right? And you can see how like I picked all the numbers, and you don't end up using all of it. In fact, you probably use like 20% of this, maybe more actually. But at least you kind of get familiar with the product, and this is, I think, one of the most important part when it comes to preparation. So yeah, is there anything else? No. Yeah, so 5 files. I'm gonna put the links in the description to the video, so it's all gonna be there for you guys to learn and analyze and hopefully have fun with. Now, as I mentioned, yeah, this is gonna be the last video of the My Side Hustle series. It was pretty fun. It started on Reddit, like I think winter 2018, and then we've read a lot of Reddit, and then we came up with a plan how we're gonna go about this, learn a lot about copywriting, ended up getting a client, and now we finished the project. So I'm glad. We've documented this, because now there is a whole record, and anyone who wants to do copywriting hopefully can find this and save a lot of time and headaches when they're gonna go about getting into this industry. Now, I want to clarify one point, that just because some people ask me like, so is copywriting not good enough? Is this like too much work? No, it's amazing. In fact, I think it's like one of the best things out there for people who like to work by themselves, like to just sit and write, more like, don't really care about teamwork and none of the stuff, just like to write and like to maybe advertise things. That's amazing. It's very attractive financially, and I would continue doing this. The only reason I don't is just because copywriting doesn't really help me to fulfill what is that I really want to fulfill right now. And I don't know, I'm gonna start a new series about my new project, but I don't know when I'm gonna start it, because I can't spend a lot of time working on that project. So for those who kind of wondering, I don't want you to wait for that, so I'm just gonna kind of discuss this here a little bit. And it's essentially, I want to write a fiction book, kind of like I'm not sure if it's sci-fi or fantasy, because I kind of started it as a fantasy, but I'm just kind of writing it and I was like, oh, this sounds more like sci-fi. But anyways, it's going to be a book, and I want to try to publish it. So I've never done anything like that before, so new to me. But you know, when I started this My Side Hustle series, I just tried to fill in the, you know, kind of the space in my day, and the business been like such a big part of my last 10 years that this was sort of a natural choice for me. Just, okay, let's start another business. And as I kind of start going through the motion, I just sort of realized it doesn't really do what I wanted to do. And but it's actually because of it. It's a long story. I might cover it in like my new series, but copywriting sort of led me on this path of discovering that I want to write a fiction story. And yeah, long story short, now I'm doing it and I'm having a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. I can't say like this doesn't feel like work. No, it's still a lot of work, but it feels very different and feels like a right thing to do for me right now. So yeah, I'm sort of learning a lot right now, just still on Reddit, but on the different subreddits like our writing, our screenwriting, just watching a lot of YouTube educational videos. It's just so amazing in what kind of time we live in. There is so much information out there. It just still boggles my mind, and like YouTube is just a mine of people just like sharing how things could be done. It's just fascinating in its own way. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of dealing with right now. I do want to make a series out of it, so if you guys interested, still keep watching. If not, it's all cool, because this is the last video in my side hustle series, and you know, good luck to you all and to all of us, and I hope you guys, I wish you all the best success with copywriting or whatever it is that you guys decide to do. But as far as copywriting goes, I recommend to try it. If you're here and you're just wondering, might not be for you, and it is very difficult. It kind of requires a very specific set of skills and personalities and whatnot, but if it is for you, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, hopefully you know, whatever I've shared with you guys is helpful and you've learned something, and you guys gonna have good fun with it. Yeah, so until next time,